Hopefully you've just finished watching the tethered snatch strap destruction video. If you haven't, follow the link either in the comments or just there on the video right now and go and watch that video and then come back to this one, because Aaron and I are going to unpack what we've learned from that testing. It was fascinating. Definitely fascinating. Now, just to give you a little bit of backstory, I've been, and now Aaron has joined me to do a bunch of testing around snatch straps and recovery points and all of that sort of stuff, because I think that they're extremely dangerous. They can be used safely.
Yeah.
But they are extremely dangerous, and there's safe ways to use them, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we don't understand. So the first video we did was just simply to show people the amount of power that is in a snatch recovery when something goes wrong. And we blew a bow shackle into a tree, and bark flew everywhere, and it actually deformed the bow shackle. It was huge. There's a little bit of that footage right there for you. How amazing is that? That's when we actually released a snatch strap that was loaded up and just released the fuse, and away it went. The second video we did was we said, well, the instructions, the training manuals say put an air damper in the middle third of a snatch strap. And we've always been very suspicious that that was wise advice. So we went out to test it. The end result was we needed 3 air dampers, one at each end and one in the middle. And each of those air dampers had to have 5 kilograms of loose matter, like dirt or sand, something like that. And that would be relatively effective with capturing a snatch strap that had a projectile attached to it, like a bow shackle, something like that. A recovery point has failed and it's flying through the air. That was our learnings from that test.
Yep.
But we've gone, well, it's not really practical to carry 3 air dampers because they're blooming clunky things and heavy.
And provided your recovery points are engineered correctly, hopefully you're not going to see those fail either.
Well, yeah, that's dead right. And so we've gone, well, what other ways are there? Well, we came across a company that makes snatch straps with tethers. And they've found them to be very successful. And they've been widely used, and they said, go ahead and test it. So that's what we've done. Well, the end result was pretty much failed, and it didn't work. Now, I'm not out here to destroy a company that's trying to do the right thing at all. I've actually spoken to the company. I'm not going to name them at this stage, but they're actually gone back to the drawing board, gone, oh, wow, we have not had that testing fail like that. We're going to redesign it. Now, we've given them a few of our ideas, and they're going to implement those, and in time we will come back to you with some testing on that. But let's unpack this, Aaron.
All right. I think first things first, in terms of having discussion with these guys about what the majority of their customers use these tethered types of straps for, it's, even though these are snatch straps, it doesn't sound like they've been necessarily utilising them under what we'd class as a typical heavy-duty snatching style of recovery.
Yeah, it's more of a tow type of environment, a big heavy truck towing, like slowly getting up to speed sort of thing.
So in that respect, I think we've probably subjected these straps to forces that, under a normal recovery that they're not necessarily going to see.
Yes, but they're designed to see. So
True.
So what the purpose of this testing, and it's important you understand this, the purpose of this testing was to fail the snatch strap at its fuse point and see if the tether would capture it. That's why we didn't put air dampers on this. All right. So we made, as I say in the other video, that's a fuse point there at the end of the stitching. It's designed to fail there, and that's exactly what it did. So the snatch strap worked perfectly. It did its job. But you want to tell them, Aaron?
Well, as you can see, the tether, which is also supposed to be attached to the strap.
Well, it'll be in there.
The inside of this one.
Here we go. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so the tether that's supposed to be still attached to that strap On the second strap that we blew apart, it ripped the tether clean off it.
At both ends, which was amazing.
And in the high-speed footage, you can see this just flying through the air by itself on its own. It was a huge failure in that respect. It did not retain or cushion any of the energy that was in that strap when the strap blew at its fuse.
Yep.
And I think when we had our initial discussion about this after it happened, we thought, well, under an arrangement, because it's not a particularly long tether.
No.
And we're talking about 700 mil.
Oh, it's a bit longer than that, but yeah.
Well, by the time
it's
it's stitched in there, it's we'll call it under a metre.
So one of the things with a snatch strap is they're designed to stretch. We all know that. Yep. And a rough number is about 20%. Okay, so this is a 9 metre strap. So we're looking for about a bit over 1.5 metres of stretch before it's fully loaded and the fuse should fail. Now we looked at the footage and did some very, very rough calculations, and it did go to about 1.5 metres of stretch. You could see the snatch strap get to light tension, and then when it failed, the vehicle had travelled about 1.5 metres. This is what actually broke the tether, was that 1.5 metres of recoil.
Yep.
So the snatch strap trying to go back to zero position. Another way of saying it, imagine if we loaded this snatch strap up to its fully stretched length before the fuse blew, and then we cut the fuse with a knife. The snatch strap's going to stretch back to its free length.
Yeah. It's going to try and return back to its free length.
Yes.
It's already stretched, yeah.
That would be enough to blow the tether in half and make it redundant. So
in our initial discussions, what we thought was potentially going to happen, because the tether's not particularly long, we thought, well, once the vehicle's in full motion and it blows that fuse, the vehicle's not going to take very long to get that tether effectively tight, and then it's just going to tear it off anyway. But when we reviewed the high-speed footage, what you can actually see is that the strap, the tether fails under the recoil of the strap before the vehicle has even had a chance to move probably another 20 centimetres. If that. It happened so fast.
So fast.
Effectively, if the strap's breaking at 9 tonne, then this tether is having to try and absorb that sort of energy as it's recoiling back the other way. And it's certainly the energy in the strap's not dissipating at a rate fast enough, for the length of this tether.
Yeah, look, what we want to keep doing this sort of testing, because at the end of the day, we want to understand how to make this safer. Now, we're not scientists. We're just blokes who have, got a bit of experience, and we talk about it, we think about it, and we try and challenge ourselves, and we talk to other experts and get their input. And but what we would love is somebody who can help us with either financially doing this, because at the moment we're doing it all off our own bat, and the pockets are a bit shallow. But we also would like to start getting some load cells involved, so we can start testing some of the forces involved. So if you know anybody in that industry and can hook us up, we would really be interested in that. Now, So just to summarise this video, we want to just go through a couple of things just to help people have some takeaway that's going to help them use snatch recoveries and do snatch recovery safe. Now, I think most people are well aware that a bogged vehicle is 3 times the weight or thereabouts of its standing weight. So if it weighs 2 tonne before it goes in the bog hole, when it's fully in the bog hole, it's 6 tonne.
Yeah, so we're talking about generally accepted principles of recovery here.
Correct, yeah. The other thing is a snatch strap, when it's wet, is reduced in its effectiveness. It doesn't stretch as much, so always keep that in mind. And let's face it, oftentimes when we're doing those heavy snatch recoveries, it's because we're in a bog hole, which is wet. So keep that in mind when you're doing your snatch recoveries. Now, the most important thing is
hierarchy of recovery.
We just came up with that just today. All right, hierarchy of recovery. So this is really the principle of starting with the simplest things first and then working your way up. And so your simplest thing is put your four-wheel drive in four-wheel drive. All right, after that, it's really doing things like airing your tires down, using a shovel, packing rocks, using some traction aids, something of that nature. And then you can, then you start getting into your winching. Okay, I would rather do a winch recovery than a snatch recovery.
Yeah, I agree.
Effectively, the last port of call is going to be a snatch recovery. Now, between a winch and a snatch recovery, there is a tow.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't get it out with your winch, you're probably not going to tow it out. But sometimes, in the right situation, you might do a tow before you do a winch.
Well, certainly I think in that respect, always attempt to tow a vehicle out before you have to apply those snatching forces to it.
Correct.
The first opportunity shouldn't be just whack the strap on and hit it as hard as you can. That's just unnecessary.
And I get it. I mean, you go, a snatch strap is an extremely effective recovery tool.
Yeah,
and it's
sure.
quick and easy. So the temptation is grab the strap out, hook it on. But they're just so dangerous. I don't think it's worth that.
Look, I think it's worth talking about a specific point here, which is a lot of people will watch this video and go, but Matthew, you've attached your 80 series to a tree. I mean, that is not really representative of the forces that you're going to find in a snatch. I mean, how often are you in a situation where the vehicle is that stuck that it's not going to move at all?
At all. Mm.
Well, the point of the testing, and it was done in this way, is because we're simulating not necessarily a worst case environment, but certainly an environment which you do find yourselves in.
Yep.
And I'll use this as an example. How often do guys drive into bog holes without testing to see what's in there first? All the time. I mean, that's just part of the fun and what we do.
Yeah.
Now, what a lot of people love to do with wet and boggy tracks is throw logs into them to try and get some traction. But they all end up in the bottom of that bog hole. So you drive in there in your four-wheel drive, then all of a sudden you've got rocks and logs that are going to anchor your vehicle into that bog hole. It gets caught up underneath a chassis cross member, underneath the gearbox, and very quickly you've got a vehicle that's anchored in the forward direction. So then you start hitting it with a snatch strap, and that is going to be effectively the same situation where you've got an almost immovable object there.
Yeah.
And something's got to give. Either the vehicle's going to break, a recovery point's going to come off. Yeah. Hopefully they were engineered to the point where they aren't the weakest link in the system.
Yes.
And that's always the concern when people do silly things like do a snatch recovery off a tow ball. The tow ball is not the strongest component in that recovery, and that's why they break and they fail.
Correct.
So whilst this is a fairly extreme situation, it's not without its merit.
Yeah. And we are professional four-wheel drivers, and we really do look at the situation and go, is what we're doing here safe for us? At the end of the day, I am not intending to go, I don't want to get hurt. So we stand back, we set it all up, we plan it, and then we do the testing, and we're actually looking at some procedures to try and smooth and make this process a bit safer. So actually, Aaron, something else we were talking about beforehand. So on this strap here, it's got the rating of this strap. Now this is, as I say in the video, the first video there, this is a 9,000 kilo strap. Okay, and its length is 9 meters. So that means that this is just coming back to something we were going to say earlier, that when this tether fails, or the fuse fails, this tether is being subjected to approximately 9 tons of force. Can you see that taking that force? It's not going to.
It's not going to be entirely 9 tons of force.
No,
I mean, the energy does dissipate as the strap recoils, but certainly it's not zero force, and clearly it's still far more than that tether is designed to handle.
We would really love to hear your thoughts, because what I've found is, as we've been doing these videos, there's been lots of really healthy conversation and discussion around this subject, because there's a whole bunch of you guys who've just watched this video who have got exactly the same heart as us, and that is to make these recoveries safer. So if you've got a positive contribution, and it doesn't have to agree with what we're saying, but just keep it positive, we want to hear about it. And if you have any way of helping us keep this testing happening, we would really love to hear from you, because we feel that this is adding a significant amount of educational value to the four-wheel drive community. I'm Mad Matt.
I'm not.
Stay safe on the trails.